Good afternoon, gents.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Francis Akpan-Iwan, and this afternoon I'll be taking you through not so much as the interview, but I'll be talking to you about CV. Now, before I actually start on my subject proper, just to talk to you about some health and safety rules. Right behind you is a fire exit, so in the event of fire, please just follow me, and I'll direct you to the to the fire assembly point. Don't run, don't rush, don't bother to pick up your stuff. The toilets, the gents, as you come out, it's to your right. We don't have any ladies here, so I'm not going to talk to you about that. But also, if you're going along this way, you will notice we've got some computers on the table there. Please be very, very careful so you don't tread on the cable. Okay. Now, as part of this, as part of my presentation, I'm just going to hand out, the CVs. So, because I want you to have an idea of what a badly written CV is, and what you shouldn't do in terms of CVs. So, I'm just going to give this out to you, Mohammed. You just Alfred. Okay. And just pass that on to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so everybody would have gone through, I suspect, everybody would have gone through an interview process, okay? But before we actually get to the interview process, there's something very, very crucial which I kind of suspect we would have done at some point. So the objective of this session is to take you through, what a CV is, the components of a CV, and the rationale, for having a CV, put together. And by the end of this session, we all would have understood, what a CV is and how to put together a proper CV. Okay? Now, in putting together a CV, one of the things, you're considering, it's, you got to be thinking, why do companies interview, or why do they have a selection process? Okay, that's always going to be your standpoint, every time you put together a CV. And most importantly, because the CV is about you, why should the company hire you? Okay, so you've got to look at yourself critically, why should the company hire you? Based on the information you've given them. They haven't seen you, okay, but why should they hire you? Okay, now, Mohammed, have you done a CV before?
Yes, please.
Okay, and what was it like?
CV?
Yeah, what was your CV like? I mean, what did you have to think about when you're putting together a CV?
Education, experience, your hobbies,
okay,
employment history,
okay,
all the good things about me.
okay. So, in terms of your hobbies, I mean, why do you think your hobby was relevant to the position?
Because they also want to see that what's your extracurricular activities, what you're involved in, some charity or your sportsmanship, team working, that could be shown from there. If you are having those things in your CV, that it shows that you are a team player, and you are the person who belongs to the society as well.
Okay.
You're not the person who is only isolated and looking at your own things.
Okay, so if you're a train driver, for example, which is an isolated job, you wouldn't put your hobby, would you? Would you put your hobby?
Of course.
Why?
Train driver means, if you go into the job description, the train driver, of course it's a boring job, but it doesn't mean the person has to be bored as well.
Okay, all
so
right.
The person, for the 2 hours, 3 hours, if he's driving, sitting alone and driving, concentrating on his own thing, which is of course driving is a boring job.
Yep.
But again, what he is doing afterwards.
Okay, all right. Okay, I take the point. What about you, Alfred?
Yeah, I've done a few CVs, and it's actually gotten me some jobs, so I'm sure whatever I put there must have been relevant to even get an interview at the time.
Okay, all right. And what about you, sir?
Well, I think the CVs are mainly for shortlisting. So obviously, the main thing you have to look into the CVs, what are the candidates that really stand out among all of those CVs? Because you're gonna end up with a massive pile of CVs. So
okay.
Obviously, the one that really stand out, that's what you have to look for, and I mean, they really meet the criteria of the position.
Okay.
So other things
CV is also sometimes, called as a resume, wherever you come from. In the UK, we say CV, and in America, they might say a resume. In other places, they might have other names for it. But we've got to restrict it to what we're familiar with, which is the CV and resume. Now, do we know what CV, what it actually stands for?
Curriculum vitae.
Okay. Okay, which translates to what?
In French, I think it's a French word, and it's like biodata.
Okay, it's not actually a French word.
Okay.
It's a Latin word.
Latin word.
Okay, all right. Okay, so like you've rightly said, that's what it means. It means the story of your life, because what you're trying to do essentially is you're trying to paint a picture, of yourself. You want to make yourself interesting, so that whoever reads the CV, like the gentleman, rightly articulated, whoever reads the CV, then we want to meet with you. We say, I want to see this person. This guy's got such a very good CV, no mistakes. All the job roles are all his experience are very, very articulated. I want to meet this person. This person will be good for our organization. This person has got the skills, that we require. Okay. Now I've put in there, it says your CV should be regarded as a work in progress and updated regularly. That means, you don't use a CV that was 5 years ago, because some people are quite lazy. They always present the same CV. Okay. So you've got to be able to tailor, your skills and attributes, to meet the job that you're applying for. So don't use a CV because you used to work as an accountant or a sociologist. It's not going to work. But what you might have to do is, through your CV, demonstrate how your skills as an accountant, okay, actually relates to the job. There could be some skills from accountancy which is relevant, in that position. Okay, and of course, I put in there the importance of a great CV cannot be overestimated, because your CV is what actually gets you through the door. Okay, it is what we call in the business a foot in the door. Because once you get through the door, then every other thing, in terms of the interview, it is really dependent partly on your CV. Okay, so I've already stated that a CV will get you, will get a potential employer intrigued, by you. Okay, they want to meet this person. They will. It also encourages, whoever is going to interview, to focus on your achievements. It will help you as an individual, to recollect and remember those key points, in your, during your career. And of course, it will leave the interviewer or the potential interviewer with a clear reminder of what you could do for the organization. Now, what that really means is this: in terms of making a decision, okay, it may make it a little bit difficult for the interviewer or maybe the organization. Because if you've got 3 CVs which are very, very good, then it gives them extra work. But if you've got CVs which are shoddy, it makes it easier for them, because they can easily discard CVs. So they look at this, they throw it down, that's rubbish, and this has got nothing. But where you've got CVs, where it is well presented and all the skills and abilities are articulated, it does make it a little bit more difficult, for the employers, to make a decision. And coming up to this college as well, we had to present CVs. I remember I had to put my CVs, through the night, and then the next day I rang, Jelen, and I said, well, I put through my CVs, and he looked at my CV, said, well, I'm quite impressed with your CV. Would you like to come in for an interview? So he never even saw me, but my CV, was a foot in the door. And when I came to the interview, obviously, I was able to articulate, those things. And I've put in there a photograph. Now, in some places, people put photographs. But there's a danger in putting photographs, on CVs, because it may actually put somebody off. Okay? Or it may make people biased. Okay? Now, if I'm an interviewer and I like, blonde ladies, for example, I've got to say that.
For sure.
Okay? So you get biased. So you forget about the skills and you look at the person. So vice versa as well. And in interviews, because we're human, those mistakes are easily made. Because people come to the interview and we've seen it and we've had experienced it, and from my experience I can tell you that as well. People come and they get focused on the person, rather than the skills. So in interviews, you've got to be able to separate, the person, from the skills. So just because, somebody, looks in a particular way does not necessarily mean that they cannot perform on the job. So you've got to be able to go beyond, go beyond that. And that's when you talk about being inclusive. So it means that you've got to be able to talk to people regardless of their background. As long as they meet the criteria. Okay. Now, again, in terms of your presentation, your CV creates an air of quality about you. So again, I've already stated that you judge initially, by your CV. Again, that's something else for you to, to bear in mind. Always type your CV and use good quality paper. You want to present yourself, in good light. Don't use binders. You don't need a book. Okay, you need to be very, very brief in terms of your CV. So you don't need clutter. You've got to make your CV concise and tailored to the role and the job specification. And of course, I said, present your details in a clear font style and be consistent throughout. Okay. And of course, keep in mind the needs of the employer. Very, very, very critical. Okay, consider what this person is looking at in the candidate. You've got to be able to, put yourself in their shoes and say, what exactly are they looking at? Okay, and those in terms of how you present it, those are just things for you to bear in mind. The fonts to use, and again, being consistent. No shadings, no graphics. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Okay. And of course, like Mohammed said, earlier on, these are the kind of things you want in there. Now, he did say something about interest and hobbies. I mean, there's no right or wrong way, in terms of whether or not people want to know your hobbies. But of course, references, maybe not at that point in time, because CVs have become easily, outdated. Okay, so references, okay, but those can always be obtained, at the time you offer the position. And of course, there's something in there which you need to understand: your qualification, your skills versus knowledge and experience. Okay, be able to articulate those in terms of your qualification. Is it relevant to the job? Your skills and the knowledge as well. Is it relevant, to the positions you're applying for? And of course, your experience as well. Even if the experience has been done outside paid employment. Okay. Now, I know you guys have been scribbling away. If you've got any question to ask, I can take questions now about any aspect of CV. Yes, Alfred.
In terms of the picture there,
yes.
If let's say I'm into photography,
yes,
wouldn't it be a good idea for me to sort of, because it's photography, maybe have a bit of myself or a picture or something like that to sort of
well, I see the point you're making.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is photography, but in photography, if you're applying for a job as a photographer, what you'll be showcasing will be your work, not yourself. Okay? Because you are the man behind the lens. Okay? What you do is you project image. You present things in a peculiar way. So yes, you will provide your portfolio, but in terms of your personal photograph, not necessary. Okay? Any more questions? Yes, Mohammed.
But you have mentioned overestimated CVs. What does it mean?
Overestimated CVs. Now, CVs can be elaborate, where people put things they're not very, very conversant with. Okay, so you go for a job as a teacher, for example, and then you start to tell them that you used to be, you're probably a head teacher somewhere. Okay, you kind of put skills you don't have, and then you try to elaborate, because those skills, they will actually catch you out, maybe at the interview, or maybe somewhere along the lines. So it is important to actually restrict it to what you know, okay, rather than being elaborate and talking about things, skills you don't have.
So overestimation is lying.
Sorry, absolutely. So basically, be truthful about your CV. Do not exaggerate.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So thank you, gentlemen. In the absence of any further questions, can I just get back your scribbles and I will have a look at them later. And thank you very much. If you just pass that along. Thank you.